A Mortal's Journey to Immortality Episode 168. Can Han Li defeat the nascent soul mid-stage Nanlong Ho and protect his concubine, Mu Peeling? In the last episode, Nanlong Ho, seeking to force Han Li's hand, proposed a forced transaction where the winner would claim the loser's concubine. Nanlong Ho's two concubines initially showed a slight change in expression, but it quickly returned to normal. They reasoned that an opponent who had only recently broken through to nascent soul could not possibly contend with a mid-stage nascent soul like Nanlong Ho. Lu Luo's face was filled with shock and anger, leaving him speechless for a moment. Mu Peeling's beautiful face instantly lost all color. Han Li, however, maintained his usual expression and asked Lu Luo about the nature of this forced transaction. The forced transaction is a rule established by the organizers specifically for nascent soul cultivators. No power wishes to easily offend a nascent soul cultivator, and the hosts of the trade fair are no exception. However, in such a large event, disputes and conflicts are inevitable. While cultivators below the nascent soul stage can be forcibly suppressed by the organizers, conflicts between nascent soul cultivators are handled differently, as the organizers are reluctant to intervene directly. Therefore, several special rules were formulated to allow nascent soul cultivators to resolve their disputes independently. The forced transaction is one of the least frequently used of these rules. Specifically, this rule can be invoked between nascent soul cultivators within 1,000 li of the host's location, both before and after the trade period. If one party offers something significantly higher in value than another's item to exchange for what they need, and the other party refuses, the forced transaction rule allows both parties to resolve the dispute through a contest of their cultivation and divine abilities. However, the application of this rule is very strict. Even if the initiator of the forced transaction wins, they can only proceed with the transaction, gaining no particular advantage. If they lose, the item offered for the transaction will be given to the challenged party for free. Furthermore, in such a challenge, both parties are permitted to severely injure each other, but they must not take a life. Should a life be taken, the organizers will dispatch experts to hunt down the killer. Nevertheless, it is already exceedingly difficult for a nascent soul cultivator to kill an opponent in a one-on-one fight. Therefore, a forced transaction is typically only proposed when the opponent possesses an item that one absolutely must obtain, and the opponent's cultivation is clearly inferior. Otherwise, no one would engage in such a foolish act that yields no benefit and only creates enemies. The concept of concubines for nascent soul cultivators and the idea of trading them indeed exists and is quite popular among some demonic and unorthodox cultivators. Consequently, all the conditions initiated by Nanlong Ho were met, rendering any appeal to the law enforcement cultivators of the Nine Nations Alliance futile. Lu Luo, however, found some relief in the fact that Han Li's life would not be in danger. At worst, he would only be severely injured. In Lu Luo's eyes, Mu Peeling was dispensable, and even if she were exchanged, Han Li would still gain two great beauties, making it no real loss. After hearing this explanation, Han Li's expression remained unchanged, but Mu Peeling's heart was filled with regret. If she had known about such a rule at the trade fair, she would never have asked Han Li to come. Although she didn't know Nanlong Ho well, his demeanor and attitude towards his concubines made it clear that if she fell into his hands, she would not remain a virgin. She might even be treated as a mere item, casually given away or exchanged. Thinking of this, Mu Peeling bit her lip in shame, and a faint blush flashed across her pale face. She held little hope that Han Li could defeat his opponent. Nanlong Ho, still seated in his beast carriage, pressed on, asking, "What's wrong, fellow Taoist Han? Are you planning to agree to trade with me, or should we have a spiritual power contest before trading?" For a moment, the vicinity was silent as Lu Luo and Mu Peeling looked at Han Li nervously. Han Li stroked his chin and suddenly laughed. "A spiritual power contest is fine," he declared. "I, Han, have only recently formed my nascent soul, and I was just wondering how much my spiritual power differs compared to other nascent soul cultivators. However, if I happen to win, I don't want the Marquis's two beloved concubines. I only want to know the true reason why fellow Taoist insists on a spiritual power contest." Fellow Taoist, don't tell me it's because you find me displeasing, or that you truly fancy my concubine. Nianlong Ho was silent for a moment, then slowly replied, all right. This Marquis agrees. Seeing Han Li's calm demeanor, Nianlong Ho also adopted a solemn expression. Mu Peeling, witnessing Han Li challenge a mid-stage nascent soul expert for her sake, found her beautiful face filled with a complex expression. Lu Luo sighed and instructed, Junior brother, be extra careful. If you can't do it, surrender immediately. I, your senior brother, will stop it at once. Han Li nodded and said nothing more. Marquis Nianlong pushed away the concubine in his arms and flew high into the sky. Han Li also transformed into a streak of blue and red and flew upwards. Although according to the rules of forced transactions, it was best to have cultivators from the Nine Nations Alliance enforcement present, both sides now tacitly avoided mentioning it, so it was naturally overlooked. The two flew to an altitude of 50 to 60 zhang and stopped. Han Li floated opposite Marquis Nianlong and calmly asked, although I don't know why fellow Taoist insists on testing the strength of my divine sense, it's clear that the Marquis's intentions are not shallow. I am truly a bit curious about this matter. Marquis Nianlong said unceremoniously, fellow Taoist Han is truly a clever person. However, if you want to know the reason, your divine sense must be stronger than or comparable to mine. If your divine sense wasn't strong, this Marquis wouldn't lower himself to challenge you. However, I don't think fellow Taoist Han has much hope. After all, the difference in strength of divine sense between the early and middle stages of nascent soul is not just a little bit. Han Li calmly said, what fellow Taoist said is true, but I have no intention of giving up the concubine. Then, without further words, he released his divine sense outwards. An astonishing aura erupted, and his divine sense also shot towards the opposite side. Marquis Nianlong showed no fear. Instead, he shouted, good, come. He also released his divine sense. Two almost visible, formless entities collided and burst open between the two of them. A fierce gale immediately arose, spreading in all directions. Seeing this, Marquis Nianlong was inwardly startled, and his originally probing divine sense instantly magnified several times. Immediately, continuous explosions rang out. Layers of gales formed a hazy white airflow, enveloping the two of them in midair. The figures of the two instantly blurred, becoming two indistinct, motionless shadows in the high sky. Lu Luo was greatly astonished upon seeing this. He exclaimed, divine sense taking form. How's that possible? Junior brother Han's divine sense is actually this powerful. Hearing this, Mu Peeling couldn't help but ask, divine sense taking form? Can young master defeat the opponent then? Lu Luo casually said, I don't know either. Normally speaking, divine sense taking form is a divine ability that cultivators in the middle stage of nascent soul can only master by relying on their powerful divine sense. Junior brother Han can already use it now. Could it be that the cultivation technique he primarily practices is geared towards cultivating divine sense? It must be so. Only this way does it make sense. Mu Peeling asked, full of hope, in that case, young master also has a chance to fight, right? Lu Luo said with an uncertain expression, that's hard to say. Because cultivators of the same stage also have differences in strength. Marquis Nianlong entered the middle stage of nascent soul 300 years ago. He should have cultivated to the peak of the middle stage by now, only a step away from the late stage. For junior brother to defeat this old monster, it's difficult. Upon hearing this, the glimmer of hope that had just risen in Mu Peeling's heart immediately turned cold again. Just then, the explosions in the sky became increasingly dense. The gales formed under continuous rotation, even forming a huge white wind circle, completely engulfing the two of them. Lu Luo said with some surprise, oh, I can't believe it, junior brother Han is not at a disadvantage. Suddenly, a dazzling white light flashed in the sky, followed by a thunderclap from a clear sky. The originally hazy air circle burst open, and the violent gale swept in all directions at once. Mu Peeling and the others, dozens of zhang below, upon seeing this menacing white gale approaching, their expressions changed drastically. Lu Luo roared, not good. His figure flashed, blocking in front of Mu Peeling. Then he released a blue protective shield to protect both of them. Just then, the swift gale had already slammed into the shield. Creaking sounds continuously emanated. The front shield wall, upon contact, was as if it had been violently struck by a heavy hammer. It deeply caved in several inches the moment the gale swept past. Fortunately, these gales only passed by in a dispersed manner, and the caved-in shield wall quickly returned to normal. Marquis Nanlong's group of golden halberd armored cultivators simultaneously raised their golden halberds. Immediately, large swathes of golden light appeared above their heads, protecting them and the beast carriage in the middle. When the white gale swept past, the golden light only held for a moment before shattering and was swept away by the remaining gales. These warriors and female cultivators all clutched their heads and screamed in pain, gradually bleeding from their 7 orifices, their faces showing terror. Only the 2 female cultivators in palace attire sitting on the beast carriage were unharmed due to the protection of the beast carriage's restrictions. Why did Marquis Nanlong want to test the strength of Han Li's divine sense? What exactly is his purpose? After Lu Luo and another person witnessed Han Li's combat power, Marquis Nanlong's subordinates, who had previously been injured by the battle shockwaves, were healed by a golden light released by Marquis Nanlong. Marquis Nanlong then looked at Han Li, whose expression was normal, with a face full of surprise. He mused that he had activated 70 to 80% of his divine power, yet the opponent had easily deflected it and even had strength to spare, suggesting Han Li's divine power might even surpass his own. Han Li took the opportunity to suggest that the sparring should end there, as neither side truly wanted to fight to the death. Marquis Nanlong readily agreed. The previous struggle had made him somewhat wary of Han Li. Moreover, the opponent's strong divine power perfectly met his requirements, as he still needed the other party's help with something. Marquis Nanlong then gave Han Li a strange smile and transmitted a message. Since fellow Taoist Han's divine power is not much inferior to this Marquis, then you are qualified to know the true reason I sought you out for sparring. However, this matter is of great importance, and it's not convenient to speak openly here. This jade slip contains a map. On the 4th day of the trade fair, fellow Taoist can gather at the location marked on the map. This Marquis will introduce other fellow Taoists to fellow Taoist Han, and there will be a great opportunity to share with fellow Taoist. After saying this, he threw a jade slip to Han Li. Han Li put away the jade slip, not checking it immediately. What he didn't know was that Marquis Nanlong had also invited Wang Chan and his wife. Seeing Han Li accept the jade slip, Marquis Nanlong took his people and left. Seeing Marquis Nanlong leave, Han Li landed next to Mu Piling and the other person. Mu Piling, her delicate face flushed, greeted him, "Young master, are you all right?" Han Li's display of great power against Marquis Nanlong had stirred a ripple in her heart. She felt that staying by Han Li's side didn't seem like a bad thing, it even gave her a warm and reliable feeling. Han Li calmly replied, "I'm fine. I just used up a bit of divine power." Lu Luo, standing nearby, stared at Han Li and excitedly exclaimed, "Junior brother, you've kept it a secret so well. You made your senior brother worry for nothing." He realized that Han Li was incredibly powerful right after entering the nascent soul stage, and recruiting such a strong cultivator into Luoyun's sect was a huge gain. His attitude towards Han Li became even more enthusiastic and friendly. Han Li, with a gentle expression, replied, "This junior brother has never hidden anything from the 2 senior brothers. It's just that the 2 senior brothers never asked." He then suggested, "Let's go too. The commotion just now was too big, it might attract many cultivators." With that, the 3 of them walked into Tian City. Inside Tian City, rows of stone houses were neatly arranged, interspersed with bluestone streets of varying widths. Tian City offered free accommodation to nascent soul cultivators in a VIP building, so Han Li and the others didn't need to find an inn themselves. Led by Lu Luo, the 3 arrived before a white light barrier. Behind it were numerous quiet and elegant pavilions, each unique in style and exquisitely beautiful. This light barrier could only be opened by cultivators above the nascent soul stage. Han Li casually broke the restriction and entered with Mu Piling. Nascent soul cultivators could bring their disciples and choose any pavilion. If a restriction lit up outside a pavilion, it meant it was already occupied, requiring them to choose another unoccupied one. Han Li and the other person chose 2 adjacent pavilions. Suddenly, Fire Dragon Child walked out from a nearby pavilion. He glanced at Han Li and the others and said with some surprise, "Oh, isn't this Brother Liu? I didn't expect fellow Taoists to arrive so early." He also recognized Han Li as the disciple who participated in the event assembly last time, and when he saw Han Li's cultivation, his heart was startled. Lu Luo, with a beaming smile, replied, "Hee, so it's fellow Taoist Lan. How can you say we arrived early?" This time, fellow Taoist was the one who arrived first, not us. He continued, "Oh right, this is our Luoyun sect's newly joined Elder Han, Junior Brother Han. Brother Lan, you've met him before, so I don't need to introduce him much, right?" Fire Dragon Child had no intention of pursuing the matter of that day. He smiled bitterly and said, "So fellow Taoist Han is indeed your esteemed sect's newly promoted elder." Lan truly misjudged that day. Han Li smiled and explained, "I merely heard of the Spirit Eye Sacred Tree's great reputation and thus entered the sacred land to take a look. I hope fellow Taoist Lan will not take offense." Okay, that's all the content for this video. If you enjoyed it, please don't hesitate to like, share, and subscribe. After all, your support is my motivation to keep creating content. I'm Han Li. See you in the next video.